Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tabor Sawatsky, and I am your host today for our Gopher Solutions webinar. For those of you who are new to our Gopher Solutions series of webinars, they typically occur on the third week of every month, and we do archive our past webinars, and we'll do the same with today's webinar. So if you want to go back and look at any of our past topics and presentations, and if you want to go back and revisit today's, they're available on our website, and we've had some great presenters in the past and some great topics like assessment, fitness, classroom management, and PE advocacy. Our presenters have done a nice job of bringing some real pertinent topics to the field of physical education to our webinar series. All attendees of today's webinar will receive a certificate of participation for 1 hour of educational credit, and we will email that out to you based on your email that you used to register for the webinar. Also today, all attendees will be entered to win a Rainbow Recess Pack. It includes 42 playground balls and 4 storage bags. It's valued at $389. Today's webinar is titled Using Google Apps to Enhance Physical Education with Matt Callahan. Before I introduce Matt, I did want to mention that you will have the chance to ask questions throughout the webinar, and we'll answer all of our questions at the end of Matt's presentation. But you can put in those questions at any time during the presentation. So if something pops into mind that you have a question on, go ahead and ask that question on the right-hand side of your screen. There's a questions pane there. I'm the only one, the moderator is the only one who's able to see those questions. So, don't hesitate to ask away, and we should have plenty of time at the end of our presentation to get to most of those questions. Today I do have the pleasure of introducing our presenter, Matt Callahan. Matt is a former kindergarten through 5th grade physical education teacher. He's been teaching for the past 10 years in the Oshkosh Area School District in Wisconsin. He currently is a technology integration coach for 3 elementaries in the district. He has completed Google Education Trainer certification. He was the winner of the PE Universe Best Activity Idea in America for his activity idea called Paperboy. He coaches boys varsity soccer, and he also is a youth soccer coach. So at this time, I will turn it over to our presenter, Matt. Matt, it is all yours.
All right. Thank you very much, and thanks to Gopher for giving me the opportunity to present this information. I'm very excited to talk today about how Google Apps can be used to enhance physical education. PE teachers, they have some unique challenges in that they deal with a large number of students. In years past, I would have 500 plus students, a large number of staff spanning throughout several buildings. So today I'm going to try to share some resources and some ideas that can hopefully make your job a little bit easier. I was a K-5 PE teacher for 9 years at several elementary schools. Just finished up my first year as a technology integration coach. Today we're talking about Google Apps for education. And up until about 3 years ago, I had never used a Google app. And then our district made the decision to switch from Microsoft Outlook to Google. Since then, I've become a heavy Google Apps user, and this past winter, I became a Google Education Trainer. So today I'm going to start by talking about what Google Apps are. I'll get into what makes them so powerful for the education field, and then I'll give some examples throughout the presentation on how Google Apps could be used as a PE teacher. So first, Google provides Google Apps free to school districts. That's tough to beat. The main service of Google Apps is Google Drive, and Google Drive has a couple different purposes. It can be used to store files like you would with a Dropbox service or a USB stick or a portable hard drive. So you can store any type of file in Google Drive, and you can also use Google Drive to create files as well. Google Drive is cloud-based, so all of this is done online in the cloud. So your files can be accessed from anywhere you can get an internet connection. Now, part of Google Drive is creating documents. As I mentioned earlier, my district previously used Outlook for our email system, and we used Microsoft Office for productivity tools. After we switched to Google, I learned that I basically have an equivalent to most of the Microsoft Office products. Google Docs composes documents just like Microsoft Word would. Sheets creates spreadsheets like Excel. Slides allows the user to create presentations like PowerPoint. But Google also has many other apps that provide additional functionalities, such as Google Forms, which are incredibly powerful and can be used to make survey-type questions, and Google Drawings, which can be used to create drawings or pictures. The apps keep on going, though. As you can see, Google offers a significant collection of apps. In addition to the standard productivity apps, Google has apps that can help you stay organized, apps that can help you communicate and collaborate, and apps that can help you be more productive. So the focus of this presentation is going to be on what apps are available and what you as a PE teacher can do with them. You know, if you're on the fence deciding whether to use Google or Microsoft, here are a few of the big components that I think helps Google stand in the front. First, it's free, and schools in the age of budget cuts, that's, you know, as I said before, that's tough to beat. If your school district doesn't use Google Apps for education, you can still go to gmail.com. You can create a free Gmail account, and almost everything I talk about today can be accessed with a free Gmail account. So even if you're not in a Google Apps for Education school district, you can still do just about everything I talk about today. One of the other huge benefits of using Google is the ability to collaborate in real time on documents and how easy it is to share documents you've created. We'll talk about that extensively in just a little bit. Your documents auto-save after every change. If you type 3 keystrokes, it will automatically save them, so you never have to worry about losing your work. That's a huge plus. And if something does go wrong, you can go back into, they call it the revision history of the document, and you can restore a previous version at any time. And finally, Google Apps, they're tied to your account, which is your email address. It's not tied to a specific computer. Nothing is saved on a specific computer, so you can access your Google Apps from any computer that has internet access. And as a bonus, if you have an education account, you get an unlimited amount of storage. So you can, you never have to worry about running out of storage space like you would, with a thumb drive or a USB stick or something like that. This presentation is going to be flipped a bit. I didn't want to spend the entire time going over like how to use Google Docs or how to use YouTube. I could spend the entire time doing that. So rather, I'm going to try to do more examples of what you could do with these apps. And then at the end, I have a resource sheet I'll share, which has links to, some tutorials and some help guides, so you can access those and view those on your own time or whatever you're interested in to get that how-to portion of the presentation. To access your Google Apps, you can log into your Gmail account, and in the top right-hand corner, you'll see this little the apps launcher icon with the little 9 boxes. If you click that, it brings up this box here, and then you have some different options where you can select some of the different Google apps. If you click more, then it brings up a lot more Google apps as well. Here's what a Google Doc looks like. As you can see, it has a menu bar up at the top, just like you would find in Microsoft Word. It has some shortcut buttons as well you can use to like bold text or change the font color or the highlight or something like that. One of the things that Google Docs has that makes it a little bit different is you have these add-ons. And add-ons basically add additional functionality to your Google Docs. So there's just like there's an iTunes store or an app store, you can go to a add-on store, and then you can do some different add-ons as well, which, as I said, can add some functionality. So if you click on the add-ons in the menu bar, it, brings up this little box, and, again, right there it says Get Add-ons. So you can go to the store, you can look at what add-ons are available, you can download some. Otherwise, you can click on Manage Add-ons as well. If you have an add-on, you can delete it if you're not liking it or something like that. You'll see here I have a Avery label merge add-on that I can use to make labels. I have that installed in my Google Docs right now. Back to the Google Doc, the other component that is common amongst Google Apps, Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets is the Share button. And the Share button is this blue button in the top right corner. When you click the share button, you can enter email addresses of people you want to have access to that document. You can select if you want them to be able to view the document, edit the document, make comments on it but not change anything. You can go in and see who you've shared a document with and change their settings at any time. If you're sharing a document with a lot of people, you can get the link and you can send out the link to the document to make it a little easier on them. Here in this example, you can see this says anyone with a link can view it. So with that, for example, I could send it out to parents. If parents don't have a Gmail address, I could take this link, I could email it to them, and when they click on it, it basically opens up as like a one-page website. So I'm going to flip over here to my Google Docs here. And so here's a Google Doc, a live Google Doc that I'm in right now. You'll see right now it says all changes are saved. If I type something, as soon as I type it, it saves it, and then it saves that right away. Up here in the corner, here's that share button I was talking about, so I'll click that, and here it brings up the sharing box. Now what I can do is I can start to type in people's names. So if I type in a name, people that are in my contacts will pop up, people that are in my school district will pop up. So I could select somebody, and then I can click here whether I want them to be able to have full edit rights, or I can select if I just want them to be able to comment, so if I want them to review it, or if I don't want them to be able to change anything or add comments, I can click that they can just view it. So I can do that. If I go into advanced, it will show people that I've shared a document with. So this I could go through at a later date. I could change, maybe I want them to edit it. Now that it's edited, we're going to go live. I could go through and take people's rights to edit it away, so that way it doesn't get changed past a certain point. Or you could just delete someone's rights to view the document whatsoever. So it gives you a lot of options there. Right now, my document is set up so anyone who has the link can view it. If I click change here, it brings up some different options. So if you have it off, the only people that can view your document is yourself or anyone you've shared it with. So it's very secure that way. Even though it's stored in the cloud, no one can look at this except for people that you've shared it with. Now, this would be one of the differences you have if you have a Google Apps for Education school district account. If you have a Google Apps district account, it gives you the option to restrict sharing to people that are within your school district. Not a huge deal for staff, but that comes into play for students. Maybe if you're working with young students and you don't want them sharing documents with people outside your school district, it can be set up so it restricts it where only people within the school district can view it. If you're going to do something with parents or people that are outside your school district, you want to check one of these options on anyone with the link or on public on the web. So this one, someone could Google something and possibly find it. Here it wouldn't show up in a Google search. They would have to be sent the link in order to view it. So as you can see, you have a lot of control over your document, who it's shared with, and again, you can change those settings at really just about any time. This is the link to this document. So if I copy that, I can email it to people as well, so that way they can view it and make changes if I've given them that access. Now, for me, the sharing is what really sets Google Apps for Education apart from other solutions. The example I'm going to give is field day. As a PE teacher, I used to plan field day every year. Typically, I would send out a draft of the schedule and the activities to my co-teachers, the principal, and so on. Now, at that point, I had my version of the document, and then they had their version as well. They would save their document to their computer, they would make changes, and then they'd send them back. I would have to compile all those changes and then create the final document and then send that document back out. With Google Docs, it's a much simpler workflow. I share the document. They can make changes on my document all at the same time if they want, and then it's finished immediately. To facilitate collaboration, when you're working on a document, you can chat with other people or leave comments. So I'll go to my presentation here for field day. Here was a field day that I had at my school. This is the document that we'd set up. You can see here this has been shared with quite a few people. If I click on advanced, it shows me all the different people that this has been shared with. You know, again, I can go in, I can change people's rights, whether they view it, edit it. I can make someone else the owner of it. If I'm finished with the document, I can make them an owner of it. But, you know, here then is the field day document. You know, equipped with the schedule. We made a little map with Google Drawings, which is an app we'll talk about a little bit later. We made these diagrams with Google Drawings, and then this was shared with, you know, this was shared with the staff. It was shared with the parent volunteers, so that way they could look at it ahead of time and know exactly what was going on. Now, this is a little demonstration, just a picture of what it would look like if you're editing a document at the same time. So you can have 50 different people editing a document at the same time. If you shared it with 50 people can edit it. When someone is in a document with you at the same time, you'll see a picture of them appear in the upper right-hand corner of the document, and then you'll be able to see a cursor for them. Each person has a different colored cursor, and when they type something, it will pop up with their name, and you'll be able to see what they're typing, where they're typing it, as they're typing it. You know, and that really is a phenomenal feature that Google Docs has. Now, to facilitate collaboration, you can also chat with people during a document. The chat, you know, doesn't make it into the document itself. It just basically allows you to talk with your collaborators, so that way you can, you know, decide what you want to do with the document. You know, so here you can see a little picture of what the chat window would look like. You know, you could chat back and forth again to help finalize the document. The uses for this are really practically limitless. I created all of my lesson plans on Google Docs. I could then share them with other PE teachers with view-only access. I would often have to share them with my principal if they would request teachers to share their lesson plans. Our district has adaptive physical education teachers that come into regular PE classes to help with students that have IEPs. Our district requires that we share our lesson plans with those APE teachers 2 weeks in advance, so that way they have time to prepare any necessary modifications. Google Docs made that process easy. I would have my lesson plans, I could just share it with those adaptive ed teachers, and it was ready to go. I also shared the docs with student teachers or practicum students that would come in. When someone I have shared a document with opens it, they always see the latest version. So if I share a document with my principal and then I add in some additional objectives, when the principal opens the document, they'll see the most recent version that exists. As I said, I've shared all my field day plans with volunteers. APE teachers have used the Google Docs to track IEP goal progress. They're used for behavior intervention notes. And as I said before, Google Docs are in the cloud, so they can be accessed from any device with an internet connection, computers, iPads, iPhones, etc. Here's a document that I created and shared with teachers throughout our district. A few years ago, we had a horrible winter, and we spent weeks upon weeks indoors at a time. Indoor recess got old after about 3 days. So I created this document with links to YouTube versions of Just Dance songs so teachers could have the students get some activity in their classroom, either as a brain break or during indoor recess. I put all the YouTube videos through this site called safeshare.tv, which basically strips away everything in the YouTube video except for the video itself. So all the ads that pop up before or during a video, none of those appear, so that way all the students see is the video itself. Because this was a Google Doc, I could add songs at any point, and when a teacher opened the document, they would always get the most recent version with the updated songs. So here's a quick view of kind of what the Google Drive looks like. You know, so here is the Google Drive. You know, I had a folder with lesson plans. You can see the folder has this little icon with a person, which then denotes that that has been shared with other people. When I click on that, you can see here, you know, it's been shared with several people. I had 3 through 5 lesson plans. I had K through 2 lesson plans. You know, rather than sharing each document, I could just go through and share that entire folder, which made that a lot easier process. And I use these lesson plans, you know, I use them every day. And if I was in the gymnasium teaching, if I wanted to tweak something, I could bring up that lesson plan on an iPad, on a phone, on a computer. I could then tweak it right then and there, so that way, you know, by the end of the day, it was automatically saved and it was ready for future use. And if someone else needed to look at that, whether it be a principal or adapted by a teacher, they had the most recent version right away. The next app we'll talk about is Google Sheets. Google Sheets is basically the equivalent to like a Microsoft Excel. It can be used to keep inventory. It can also be used to track fitness test scores. Sheets has an add-on that merges the spreadsheet data with a document that you create. So you could basically make a report that could be saved and then emailed or printed for each student. I use Sheets for my budget. Really can do most of the functions Excel can do, other than a few high-end accounting features. Here's a little overview of what a sheet would look like. Again, very similar to Docs. It has the menu bar. It has shortcut buttons. It would have a share button over here that you could use to share the sheet with other people. Google Slides is the presentation equivalent to PowerPoint. You can make presentations, but I've also seen slides used for some other educational components. For example, you can put links in presentations, and when someone clicks on that link, it will hop the presentation to a specific slide. So with that, I've seen teachers create like game show type presentations where they can review material. I've also seen teachers create like social stories using a choose your own adventure type presentation, on which the slide would have a question, the students have a couple options they can click on, and then depending upon which option they click on, it would then take that student to a specific part of the presentation based upon what they clicked. You can see here I made a yoga presentation using Google Presentations. You know, I did that to flip my classroom a bit. You know, I would be up in front demonstrating the different poses, you know, but then the challenge with that was, as I was demonstrating the poses, you know, if a student needed help, you know, it was difficult to do that. So with that, you know, I made this yoga presentation. It would have different, you know, different pictures of the different poses. It would have a little description of the pose as well. So this would kind of be demonstrating what the students should be doing. And so the students that could follow along, they could just watch this and follow along. Students that needed extra help, then that freed me up to walk around and help them out a little bit. And this, you know, it's a Google Doc or you know, Google Slides, so it can be saved online. It can be put on a website. The link can be shared with other people. So it was very, you know, very user-friendly that way. One of the apps I found myself using more and more is Google Forms. I'd say the closest thing to Google Forms would be SurveyMonkey. With SurveyMonkey, you have a limited number of responses you're allowed to view with the free account. It used to be around 100. If you sent a survey out to 300 people, you could only see the first 100 responses, and then you had to upgrade to a paid account. I'm not sure if it's like that anymore, you know, but you know, quite frankly, with Google Forms, you can do the same type of stuff, and with Google Forms, you can get as many responses as a spreadsheet can handle, which should be at least in the thousands. I've used Google Forms for surveys. It can also be used to create quizzes or tests. You can embed videos as a question. You can do pictures, lots of different types of questions I'll show you in a second. All of that on the form. There's add-ons available for forms like Flubaroo and Sheets that will grade your quizzes for you. I've used Forms to schedule parent-teacher conferences. There's an add-on for Google Forms that when someone has a multiple-choice question and they select it, it removes an option. So what I did is I created a Google form that had all of the times that was available to meet for a parent-teacher conference. And when a parent would select a time and hit submit, it would automatically take that time away from the options. So the next parent that then visited that form, they would only see the available times that I had available. I'll flick over real quick to a form. So here's an untitled form, a new form. You can add in some new questions. If I hit add item, it shows the different types of questions you can have. You can have a text question where it's just a short box. You can have a paragraph text where they have a long answer if they want to type something in. You can do multiple choice questions. You can do check boxes. The difference between check boxes and multiple choice is with check boxes, they can select more than one option, where it's multiple choice, they can only do one. You can do choose from a list, and quite a few other things as well. And as I said, you can also add in some features like videos. You can do, if you want to do a YouTube video explaining something or talking about what a question is as opposed to typing it, you could put a video in, you could put an image in, and that will show up in the form as well. You can change the theme of a form. They're highly, highly customizable. You can change the header image. You can change the colors of the font, the sizes of the fonts, the form background you can change, the page background you can change. So Google Forms are highly, highly customizable. You can see here's a picture of a Google form that I made for a boys soccer registration for my soccer team. You can see here, the header image. I found a image on Google search. I was able to put that in. Then I have some questions. What grade were they in? Player's first name, player's last name, contact information, all of that stuff. When you create a Google form, it automatically then creates for you a corresponding spreadsheet. And you can see here the spreadsheet columns are the exact same as the questions that I asked. Player grade, player first name, player last name, and then those are the same things here. When someone submits a Google form submission, you'll see it gives it a timestamp, so you can tell exactly when it was submitted. And you can also go into tools. There's a notifications option where you can have it email you if someone submits a new response. The next thing I'll talk about is Google Drawings. Google Drawings allows you to add pictures, text, and shapes to make a drawing. The drawings can be saved as different sizes. They can be downloaded as pictures or PDFs. I use Google Drawings to make classroom signs. Our school was a big PBS school, so we were encouraged to create resources demonstrating different classroom procedures. So here's a drawing that showed students what the procedure was for instant activity. I also use Google Drawings to make maps. For example, if we were doing an outdoor disc golf course around the playground, I would make a map using Google Drawings and then print it out so the students could follow along. And as mentioned earlier, I also use Google Drawings to make diagrams in lesson plans, field day documents, and a lot more. Here is just a little bit of an overview of what a Google Drawing would look like. You have your canvas here. You can make the different canvas different sizes. You can make it different colors. You can make it transparent, where anything that you don't have, it's transparent behind it. Or you can make it, where the canvas is a rectangle, and then, if you copy and paste that, they'll see the rectangle. You can insert lots of different things into a Google Drawing. Here you can see you can do a text box, an image, word art, lines, shapes, tables, and more. And then when you download it, you can download it as a PDF, scalable vector graphics, a PNG, a JPEG. So it gives you different options of how to download it based upon, what you're looking to do with your Google Drawing once you download it. Google Calendar has some options and some great features as well. If you get an email, that has a date in it, a date that's in the future, it will be underlined. If you click on that date in your email, it automatically adds sent to your calendar for that date. It links it back to that email. So if somebody sends you an invite for a meeting, maybe they have a description in the email, if you click and add it to your calendar, you can go to your calendar later and it will have a link to that email on it. So you can click on that email, it will take you back into that email, so maybe you can get some more details about what you're meeting about. As a PE teacher, I was always getting questions about, I was always getting brochures from different camps, different programs. So one of the things I would do, I would put the dates for those camps and brochures online on a calendar. so that way parents could see what was available and when. I also remember I would get asked every day, you know, hey, Mr. Callahan, what are we doing for PE today? So one of the things you could do, you could create a PE forecast. You could post it so students and parents would know what activities are coming up. Here's an example of what a Google Calendar looks like embedded in a website. So this is a practice schedule for a soccer team I coach. And again, one of the great things about this is it's embedded into my website. I have Google Calendar on my iPhone, on my phone, which is synced with this. So what I would do, let's say I have to make a practice change, I could just change the practice on my phone. And when I do that, it automatically then syncs to my Google Calendar, and it would automatically be changed on the website. You know, and that I think makes it a lot more user-friendly. It's not like, all right, every single time I make a change, I have to go and update my phone, I have to update my website, I have to send an email out to the team. You know, with Google Apps, you know, I update it on my phone, it automatically updates it, you know, on the Google Calendar, and then if people go to the website, they'll see the most recent version at any time. Google Hangouts, it's a broad app that has a lot of different features. Hangouts allows you to chat quickly back and forth, but it also has a video call feature that allows you to do a video call, much like a Skype or a FaceTime, with someone else that has a Gmail account. What makes a Hangout a little different, though, is you can have up to 10 to 15 people in your Hangout, depending upon what type of account you have. If you have a personal account, you're typically capped at 10. If you have an educational account, you're typically capped at either 12 or 15. A Hangout could be used to hold a meeting over distance, so you could save some travel time. Our district, we have Collaboration Wednesdays. So typically then what we'll do, the students might get dismissed early. PE teachers from multiple buildings would then travel to one building, and then we would have a meeting there. Occasionally what we would be able to do, rather than waste that time traveling and meeting, which, you know, typically was at least 15 to 20 minutes that we would lose, we would just bring up a Hangout. It would be a video Hangout, so that way we could talk about, you know, what we wanted to talk about at the meeting. You can share your screen so the other people you're in the Hangout with can see your documents. You know, and Hangouts also has a Hangout on Air option, which broadcasts the Hangout live to YouTube, and then it saves it to YouTube after you're done. So this feature, you know, I think it could revolutionize brain breaks, indoor recess. You could be in your gymnasium filming yourself. It would go to Google Hangouts, and then students could be in classrooms throughout school, classrooms throughout a state, classrooms throughout the country, watching that Google Hangout on Air live as it's happening. That, I think, has a ton of possible uses. I've seen people do parent meetings. I've seen people do webinars, kind of like this, using Google Hangouts on Air. I've seen people record athletic events using Google Hangouts on Air, graduations, tons of different things. And you can see Hangouts is housed in the left-hand side of your email. So if you click on one of those conversations, it pops up right on top of your email. So then you can type in and you can send a message. You'll see here, here it has an option where you can add in different people to the Hangout if you want to, you know, increase the conversation to more people. And then here is the video icon. If you click on that, then it will automatically start a video chat with that person. So here I took a little practice here to get this guy to hold the phone right, so that way I could get a screen cap. But so here's what a video Hangout would look like. You know, so there's me in the lower right-hand corner, and if we had 15 people in this Hangout, all 15 of them would be down here on the bottom of the screen. So you could click on someone's picture to see them specifically. You know, once you're in a Google Hangout on Air, you have someone that can basically be a moderator. They can mute people, unmute people, share their desktop and whatnot. So up here at the top, I have some options. You know, right now it was just 2 people. I could click and add on another person. I could mute myself. I could turn off my camera feed, adjust my volume settings, adjust the picture quality. I could end the call as well. Over here on the side, you'll see there's different features. If you want to share a document, you can share a document so everyone's looking at the same document. You can share your screen. If you have something, maybe you want to show something on your desktop, you can share your screen and it will show it to everyone else in the Hangout. You can share pictures, you can share YouTube videos, you can even get some funny mustaches or hats that will follow you when you're on the screen as well. So Google Hangouts has a lot of educational implications as well. Google Groups can be used to facilitate communication with lots of people quickly. If you have class emails, you could put them all into a group, and then you can just email the group, and then everyone gets the message. For me, when the weather was iffy, if I had groups, I had groups for K through 2 and 3 through 5 at the different schools I was at, I would just send an email to the group and let the teachers know if we were inside or outside for PE that day. So to get to a group, so here I'm in my email. Up here at the top, it says mail. What I could do is I could click on that, and then I can go on contacts. So here's adding an individual contact, but here is groups, and down here at the bottom is create new. So you can see here, here's a few groups I had, one for Oaklawn 3 through 5, Oaklawn K through 2, Washington 3 through 5, and so on. So once I created this group, if I would go into my email and I would start typing in the group name, then it would just pop up. I could click on it then, and then that all of the email addresses for that group would automatically be in the to field or the CC field of my email message. Now there's another option as well, and that is to do a Google Contact group. So if I go back into my Gmail, if I click on my apps launcher, and if I click on more, one of the options is a Google group. And the difference, and how I kind of explain it, the way I just showed you, that's kind of one-way communication. I'm the only person, if I make a contacts group, I'm the only person that can utilize that list. It's in my email as one of my contacts. If you create a Google group, you can put multiple email addresses in, just like you would before. So you could have a Google group of parents' email addresses, a Google group of different students or different teachers. What it does, though, is then it assigns that group an email address. And rather than, what you do then is when you start to type in that email address, then you click send, and then it will send it to everyone in that group. So the advantage to that is anybody can use that email address, not just the person that created it. So if I had a parent group, if everyone knew that email address, they could, send it to Oaklawn parents at oshkosh.k12.us, and then every parent would then get that email if it was sent to that group. The benefit to that, the other benefit to that is if you send an email to a group email address, it only counts as one email. So if you have 500 addresses inside a group and you send it to your group, it only counts once. So you don't have to worry about sending too many emails and then getting blocked out for a day. The next thing I'll talk about is Google Sites. Google Sites, you can create free websites with Google Sites. So you could put a syllabus, for example, on a website. You could have a different tab for each class you're teaching. You could have a syllabus then, on each tab. You could have class information, supplies. You could have calendars, what they're going to be doing embedded in each tab. And with websites, teachers, they have a lot on their plate. Sometimes having that one more thing to do can be a bit much. So, as I alluded to earlier, you can embed different Google products into a Google website. So you can embed a Google Doc, a Google Spreadsheet, a Google Slide. You can embed a Google Drive folder into a website. So let's say we have a Google Doc embedded into a website called Homework. So when someone goes to that website, they would see your document. What you could do is you could just update that Google document on your computer, on your phone, on your iPad, whatever you have, and then it automatically then, when someone goes to the website and they click on that document or they view that document, they'd automatically be seeing the most recent version. You could do the same thing with a folder. You could embed a folder into a website. So if you add some resources or some information, some documents to a folder, when someone clicks on that folder on your website, they automatically have the most recent version. So really what that allows you to do is it allows you to basically edit your website without actually having to edit your website. So that can be a big time saver. So showing a Google site, you know, here's a website our school district went through. They made, you know, the teachers were required to create a website. So here's mine with a few tabs. You can see here I have my Google Calendar embedded into my website. I have a contact me section and whatnot. Now up here in the top, I have some options to edit it. I can add a new page. Once I add a page, I can go in and add it to my navigation. Or there's this little pencil here. If I click that pencil, then I can edit the page. So here's some different formatting features. You know, I can click insert. Again, here's formatting options, images, table of contents, whatnot. But over here then, here's all the different Google things I could add in: documents, drawings, folders, forms, images, presentations, spreadsheets, YouTube videos, Google Plus posts. If I have like a Google group, I could make like a discussion forum for that Google group. I could embed that into a website. You know, calendar. If I click on calendar, all of my Google calendars come up. I can click one of them, and then it will get embedded right into the website. So it makes it really, really easy. You know, the Google apps work together well, so it makes it easy to add different Google apps right into your Google website. YouTube, and here's an example of a website that I made for my soccer team. You know, again, I got a little header image. It has some different information, some pictures that are links to our Twitter and our Facebook pages. You know, I made a register link, which is a Google form. So they would go in, they would enter their name, their grade, their email address, and then it would send that information to me. You know, I put information on links to game schedules, you know, camps we had. Camp registration was all done through a Google form. You know, so that was all pretty easy to facilitate using a Google website. Google Maps, you could map out an exercise course. You could take a little field trip using Street View. So here I just typed in an address, and then I typed in another address very close to it, and then you can just click here on this blue path, and you can drag it around, and then it would update the distance. So if you need to plan out like an exercise course for a bike or a jog, you can do that as well. Google Chrome is a web browser. You use it to access the internet. Google Apps work best in Google Chrome, so I'd recommend that. Chrome can be enhanced by getting apps and extensions. So just like your Google Docs have add-ons, Google Chrome has apps and extensions that add functionality. Now with Google Chrome, you sign into Google Chrome in the upper right-hand corner. If you're in Chrome, you can click on it. You can go to Settings, and then you can sign into Google Chrome. If you sign into Google Chrome on multiple computers, your bookmarks, your apps, your extensions, your browsing history will be transferred between those different devices. So if I'm at home in the morning, I'm looking up a lesson plan or I'm looking up a website, I can go to school, I can bring up my history, click on it, and I can get right back to that website I was at this morning. There's lots of different extensions that are added on. Like here, this ad block one, for example, that just like that SafeShare does, it blocks ads from popping up on the websites. So if you're on a YouTube video, you want to show a YouTube video to your class, you don't have to worry about what crazy ad is going to show up. If you have ad block installed, it will automatically block those apps. Blogger can be used to create student portfolios. Here's an example. I just did a Google search, found a great FIAD teacher blog. I put that information right here. I contacted Greg and asked him if we could use it. He said absolutely. He put in his Twitter and his email information as well. If you check it out, if you have any questions. But that was a great example. You know, he would do posts about what was going on in their school that the parents could follow along with. And if you go all Google, you might at some point need to go to Google Classroom. It's a learning management system. If you have 500 students and if you have a document you've shared with 500 people, that can just be a lot quickly. So Google Classroom manages all of that for you. It puts all of your students into classes, which makes it a lot easier to assess. If you create a document, you can click a button, it automatically pushes it out to all of your students. So it makes managing the digital workflow a lot easier. You do have to have a Google Apps for Education account to use Google Classroom. And you know, closing here, as I said, Google Google Apps really work together well. You know, I put some links in here to a guy that was using some add-ons, an add-on called Doc Appender, and a few others. And what he would do is it was basically using it to assess different standards. And you know, one day he would enter the student name, what they're working on, what standard they're working on, and then it would continually add on to that student's document. So you basically have a running record throughout the year. I made an evaluation, you know, for my coaches. I'd submit a Google form. The results would go into a spreadsheet. As soon as it went into the spreadsheet, it did a mail merge with a add-on called Autocrat. It merged the data into a Google Doc that could then be saved as a PDF, emailed, or whatnot. If you aren't using Google Apps, I couldn't recommend them more. You know, as I said at the beginning, they have a few things that I think really sets them apart. You know, when our district went to Google, they didn't take away the Microsoft products, but what they found is once people started to use them, once they got comfortable with them, the benefits were so great that people just organically kind of stopped using Microsoft products just because of the features that Google has. This page here has a QR code. You know, Mike Smith did a great webinar a few weeks ago for this series about using QR codes. So you could scan this QR code, and what it will take you to is this resource page. You know, for example, what flips teaching, if you click on it, it will explain that. If you're Google Forms, if you want an overview of how to make the different types of questions, you can click on that. It will have a video explaining that. So this, you know, this QR code is here. You could scan this QR code. Otherwise, if you don't have a QR code reader, you could just type this address in to into your URL bar on your web browser, and it will take you right to that Google Doc as well. I put my email address here as well, and my Twitter handle. If you go plus Matt Callahan 125, that's also my Google Plus handle. So, you know, if you have any questions or if I can help out in any way, don't hesitate to contact me.
All right, thanks so much, Matt. We do have time for a few questions, and at the end of our questions, we will do our giveaway for the Recess Playground ball pack. First question, Matt, we had a couple of these on the add-ons. Just wondering if you could cover again, where do you find them? You know, how do you install them? How does that work?
Yeah, sure. So the add-ons, you know, and the add-ons are specific to the Google app that you're using. So there's certain add-ons for Google Docs. There's different add-ons for like Google Presentations, Google Forms. So in each doc, I'll go back to the Google Doc here. There's the add-ons in the menu bar. So if I click add-ons, there's get add-ons. And then it basically brings up the add-ons store. You can go through, you know, Lucid Charts. I can click on that. It has some pictures of what the add-on are. Sometimes they'll have a video explaining what it does. And then if you want to add it, you just click this little plus symbol. It will ask for some permissions. You accept those, and then now that add-on is now in, I'll fire up here, but now that add-on is now in your Google Docs.
Okay. And then to get to it, it shows up on that right-hand pane, or does it come in as a drop-down under the add-ons tab again?
Then it will now it comes in as a drop-down, and once I click on this, most of them then will open up over here on the right-hand pane. Okay.
It looks like some of them are pay add-ons and some are free.
Yes, quite a few of them. There's quite a few, I'd say, very good free ones. There's definitely are some paid ones as well, though.
Okay. Next question is in regard to the calendar part of the Google apps. It looked like you had some sponsorships on the side of it. Was that something, you know, that you did for that? I think it might have been your soccer calendar. Is that something you could do for a PE calendar and, you know, use it as a fundraiser, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just had these sponsorships. They're tied to our website, so they're really on every page of our website. These pop up when you click on a new page. They go there. Now, this isn't a Google site. The Google Sites, though, does have the exact same functionality. When you go into your layout, you can have different columns. So you could have a different column, and you could just put a picture of the business logo right there in that left-hand column or the right column, wherever you want it. and then yeah, absolutely, you could sell some sponsorship advertising space. You could go buy some more Gopher equipment.
Question about are teachers in your district required to use any of the Google products, and if so, which ones?
I would say the closest thing to a requirement would be our email.
Okay.
As I said, Microsoft Word is still an option. Some people, and there's a few things Word might do that Google Docs can't. But for the majority of everyday use, Google Docs can do, just about anything you would need it to. So nothing is really required. But what they found is as people start to use it more and more, the organic use has just spread because, now I've started to use Google Docs. I start sharing stuff with other people. Whether they like it or not, they start to get more used to it, more comfortable with it. All of a sudden, they're creating Google Docs and sharing them. So the organic use within a few months to a few years was just crazy.
Yeah, I'll bet. Are you teachers required to have a classroom website or a class website, or is that optional?
So at one point we were required to have a teacher website. What the district did is they created a Google Doc. And I don't know if I'll be able to find it here, but they basically had like a website guide, and that website guide would go through, and it spelled out step by step. This is exactly how. Yeah, here we go. Creating an OASD website. So the district created this for us. It spelled out, exactly this is what we want your website to look like. They wanted them to all be basically the same templates, so that way if a parent had students in multiple teachers' classrooms, they could kind of navigate it and figure out what to do. That is something we're getting away from a little bit more, though. Going more towards where things are embedded, so it's a little bit easier to update as opposed to having a website.
Sure. Okay. You mentioned the ability to share things with students. Give us an example of something that you've shared with students. Is it typically homework type of things, and would you do that through a classroom website, or what do you share, and what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, depending upon the use, when you share, you can type in email addresses. You can also type in groups. So, for example, if I had like a first hour class, I could type in, first hour, ninth grade Phi-Ed, and my group would show up. When I click that, it would automatically share that homework assignment or whatever it is I'm sharing. It would automatically share it with all of those students. So rather than going through and, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You need to just create that group from your class list or whatever.
Yes. Yep. You do that the first time, and then from there on out, that group can be used in your documents, in your email, any of the Google apps.
Okay. Okay. Great. Question about ads, and you had mentioned a safe share, I think, that stripped out the ads from YouTube. Question is, are there any ads that can pop up while using any of the items you shared today? Because this person's district has stopped them from using sites or links that have any ads that could pop up. Is it safe share that strips them away from YouTube? And I think all of the apps you showed today through Google, they don't have any ads associated with them, right?
Right, correct. Google had changed their privacy policies for education, I think, to remove the ads. Yeah, this safeshare.tv, you can put in any YouTube link, and it completely strips away all of the ads. I mean, these things were typically riddled with ads, so it takes away all the ads on the side. It takes away all of the ads at the beginning, ads that might pop up over top the video. All of those are completely removed with that safe share. And then this extension, AdBlock, AdBlock basically does the same thing, but it does it for any website you're visiting.
Okay, great. Great. Well, that's about all the time we have today. Before we do our giveaway, just this presentation, Matt's presentation, is available and archived with all of our webinar presentations on our Gopher Webinar Solutions website. So if you want to reference it, there's some great information in here that we went through here fairly quickly, so you can go back and reference that, and hopefully there's some good things in here that you can use. And before I announce our winner, just another reminder, you will get a certificate of participation emailed to you for all of those who have registered for this webinar, and keep an eye out also for our next month's webinar. You'll be getting information on that shortly. So today, the winner of our $389 value Rainbow Recess Pack, 42 playground balls and 4 storage bags, is James Lauman, PE teacher in Kemp's Landing Magnet School in Virginia. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. Thank you so much, Matt, and we look forward to seeing you again at a future Gopher Solutions webinar.